Hello there. Welcome to July 2nd, 2025. My name is Kurt, and this is my daily Good Life meditation, an exercise that I do each morning around 5:30 a.m. to remember my life objectives and principles, those which are outlined and explained in my book, Going Alone. I also use the time to think about the last 24 hours and how I did with the challenges and the opportunities that I met. I remember the objectives of my creed so I can align myself with how I want to live, and I prepare for the coming day. But first, let me say welcome to new subscribers to the channel. Also, disclaimer that this is a personal diary video that I do publicly. You're welcome to listen in and leave comments. I don't read or respond to comments until I'm done, though. Also, I do talk about sensitive subjects. I talk about my own expectation of death, and more and more recently I talk about my declining well-being, how both my body and my mind have begun to slip into the very real effects of old age. Even though I'm only 61 years old, nevertheless, it's happening. Finally, before I get started in earnest, a big thank you to those that watch my videos, to my members on YouTube, and my Patreon supporters. I really appreciate your support. Okay, let's get started. I'm going to do three things now, like I said before. The first is to review yesterday, and I have my notes from yesterday. So in the last 24 hours, I have three notes here that were interesting. One is this note saying momentum. And what that speaks to, today is Wednesday, what that speaks to is the momentum that carried over from Monday all the way through to yesterday, which was Tuesday. Now, to be in a very insular little mindset, just talking about my own experience of life, because that's all I've got. Most of my adult life has been kind of a trudge. You know, you wake up, you go through whatever machinations you need to do to get through the day. And there's moments of, brilliant little moments here and there, and then a lot of drudgery, getting through the drudge of the day. That can be enlivened with certain things, and certain ways of doing things help to make it better. And I think this is the case for most of us. That's how we mostly live our lives. I like to think about, and I once when I was really in a really hard part of my career, I had found this lovely piece of art that I had clipped out of wherever, or I printed it, or I found it on the internet, and I pasted it, I pinned it just above my computer monitor at work. And it was I don't remember who the artist was. It was a classic artist showing a man plowing a field behind a horse, this endless field with a plow, and he's going behind it with his, the reins of the horse over his shoulder. And I had that there to remind myself that this is largely the human condition, especially for those of us that choose to be, spouses and parents, where we have little say anymore in the necessity to provide and to show up for our duty and to do our duty. That was the drudgery of things. And I think that's largely the case for most of us, whether we're parents or spouses or not. We still wind up doing the same thing. What I mean by the parents and the spouse caveat is that you have less say in the matter once you put a ring on it, and still less say once you've brought one or more kids into the world. You just have to carry on. So that's been my view of life throughout my adult life. Retirement was, for those of you that are new, I'm 6 months into retirement. Retirement, I didn't really believe the propaganda. I knew going into it that it wouldn't be easy, but I didn't realize it would be as hard as it is. Because you kind of tell yourself, well, at last I can put down the plow, right? I can wake up and go for a walk in that image, there was a copse of trees off in the distance, and go for a walk in the trees with the dog instead of plowing the field. It turns out you don't get let off that easy. So there's something about a lifetime of momentum. And if you're curious about that, see yesterday's video. There's an upload I did yesterday with me. It's a Lyle's Brother brand video of me sitting in the river just below my house here, talking about that very subject. Whatever inertia or momentum we build through our young years doesn't let up so easily. So if we spent 40 years hard at the plow, whipping the oxen, so to speak, it's going to be hard to give that up, you know. So in the midst of all that, Monday I did something that I'd promised myself I would do all along. The thing that I keep thanking at the start of these videos, I thank you for my supporters, which for basically watching my videos, being channel members and Patreon supporters, because you literally provide me the funds to go out into the wilderness. And I did that in earnest on Monday. It's only like the third time I've really done it since I've come back. Amazing. Half a year in. And I've only taken like 3 adventures into the wilderness. That's something that deserves some exploration about why that is the case. I'm not going to do that right now, other than to say, just to give myself maybe an excuse to say I've been very busy these 6 months, finding a home, buying a home, remodeling a home, establishing a life, etc., all the things. Not to mention that I don't have a proper Japanese driver's license yet. I should have one next month in August, I think. So all that stuff has been good reasons not to do it. Not to mention the fact that just to add a little more on top of that, the fact of my growing incompetence, as I mentioned. See yesterday's video if you're curious about that. My fascinating development of incompetence in Japan. And it's not just incompetence of being in Japan. It's an incompetence that seems to be deeper than Japan. It's me. It's me. I'm becoming incompetent in general. I think I can be excused if I've been a little bit timid and wanting to just stay here on my safe and comfortable balcony overlooking the bamboo and listening to the river instead of going out there into the wilderness. But in light of yesterday's video, again, back to the river sit video, doing that, especially now, especially what I saw on Monday out in the mountains, the old people encased, entombed in what remains of their life, working, living like they're on tracks, like slot car racers, zipping around figure eights, like that. That's what I saw, and I saw myself doing that too. And there's no way I can escape it. But and I'm speaking specifically about me because I can't speak on this on anybody else. My one saving grace is the fact that I have lived an expansive life. So, the slot car figure eight is a much bigger course than that. I can actually, circuit a much greater volume of space and time than I could than what I saw other people doing on Monday, simply by virtue of the fact that I have a greater inertia. So, but it's up to me to capitalize on that. If I don't do that now, if I make this balcony, pleasant as it is, my fiefdom, the expanse of my life, then and the very few things that I would do with my wife, going to the supermarket and going out for coffee and having meals out, etc., as pleasant as that may be, that will become my limit. My retirement, and especially getting old, ossifies and locks in our options and our scope. Sure, you can protest and say there's this, that, and the other person who demonstrated some life otherwise. I would counter that they are probably the exception. I'm seeing it in spades here, everywhere around me, Whatever it is we did in our midlife, whatever precedent we set when we started off in youth, whatever our mindset was going from the cusp of adolescence into adulthood, that we either gained or gained upon or rest our laurels upon, that will mark the limits of our territory in old age. I see that. Now, on Monday, I pressed out to the outer envelope of the man that I know I am, right to the bitter edge, and it was hard. See yesterday's video if you want. A little note, the Good Life meditation for yesterday. I think I talked about that a little bit. I was scared. I was scared for the first half hour going out and away. As I've always been scared. I'm always scared when I go into the wilderness. I'm a very frightened person when it comes to adventure. I don't do adventure easily. I'm frightened and I'm timid. Always. I've always been that way, even as a boy. but I do it nonetheless because, well, hashtag mortality. And I really pressed well on Monday. Really did a good job. That was a model adventure for my new paradigm. Now, the point is, I talked enough about that adventure yesterday in yesterday's Good Life meditation video. But what I want to talk about now is the impact that that had on, that wasn't yesterday's adventure, it was Monday's adventure, the day before yesterday. What I want to linger on now is yesterday, which is the day after the adventure, and the experience that that had. Now, I had come back from Monday armed with a good experience, a nice bit of a sunburn, and a phone full of about a dozen interesting videos and clips, and you know, another dozen interesting photos that I could maybe leverage into content on my channel. And that's exactly what I did. That adventure yielded so far about maybe a half dozen videos and maybe a quarter dozen photos. And it also yielded a sense of completion, a sense of good work, a job well done. Boy, and that's the boon that I'm really after at this point, right? Because that's the boon I know. That's the carrot that I followed all these years on that stick. The sense of a job well done, going home from the end of a hard day work at a job that I hate to a boss that drives me crazy, nevertheless feeling like I yielded a good solid days of work out of that. My family will have bread on the table next week and the week after that, and my job is secure. My prospects for promotion are intact and good and likely. My family is safe. That's the sense that I'm after, because that's the sense that I've lived by. That's the sense that I've lived for. It's the only one I really know, you know. A good score on the golf course would mean nothing to me. A big fish caught at the river or the sea would mean little to nothing to me. A good day's work, that's everything. Now, how does that figure into making videos and having an adventure? Well, remember I said before that just a minute ago that the scope, the limit of my capability is defined by the frontiers that I crossed as a middle-aged and a young man. One frontier that I crossed very well in my 40s and going into my early 50s, very early 50s, 51, was the frontier of being a YouTuber. I was good at that, you know, relatively speaking. Not great, but good. And I had content, I had brands, I had a venue right here. And I'm telling you, if you want to have a frontier, and you're going to spend the rest of your declining years in that midst of that frontier, this is a pretty good one right here. So I got up off of my limited venue here, the one that I didn't realize was slowly becoming, if I'm not careful, a very pleasant and well-appointed cell. I got up and I went out to that larger venue, one that I'm practiced at, one that I know, and I pushed through the fear, and I got out to the wilderness. The fear dropped away, as it always does. It's always the case. It was the same in the desert when I was riding Going Alone. I would get out there to the edge of deep water, and I'd be afraid, and like, you don't know this, but half the time I would turn around and go home. My wife and daughter had kind of a joke about that, how Dad, half the time when Dad says he's going on an adventure, he comes home, you know, 2 hours into it, saying, claiming some excuse to not go, simply because I got afraid. But I pressed through on Monday. I made it through the other side, which was the other side of the mountains, the other side of that farm road. Once I emerged out in that valley, the fear was gone, and I was on my way. And I made it work, and I capitalized on it. And I came home with a big mess of fish in the form of videos and photos and memories, and a resolve and a heightened sense of well-being, and a good sunburn, mild sunburn, that made me feel alive. Now, back to the point of yesterday. How does that translate into yesterday? Yesterday, I rode that momentum. It carried me right through Tuesday, like a bull crashing through the door of a china shop, and just hurtling right through to the outside edge and out the other edge. Things that happened yesterday were easy, to say the least, including the remaining two items here on my list. I have an item here for backing up, and then I I have a parenthetical note that says stable, and then lost, and then parenthetical note well played. So I've told you before that I'm incompetent now. Something's happening to my body and my mind, and I'm becoming increasingly incompetent. My brain isn't nimble anymore, and my thoughts come slow. My wife says that we have our brains. She says that both of us, our brains have hardened. We don't have soft brains anymore, and we both believe it's due to our age. Um, and it manifests itself, especially so when I'm driving. I just can't drive here. I just can't drive. Probably I can't drive in America anymore. First I was attributing it to Japan, but I don't think that's the case. I'm just losing. I'm losing my nimbleness. I'm getting old fast. So yesterday, though, that sense of well-being that I carried through from Monday, charging through the outside edge of that china shop like the bull, and I just charged into Tuesday in the same way. And both of these things, I said backing up, that was specifically an instance yesterday. I was backing up, and I was backing up like such an old geezer. I was in this parking lot, and there was a car that was waiting because they couldn't get to where they wanted to go because I was backing up. And I was so afraid and timid, and I was backing up, and I was looking all around and looking at the camera, looking all around. I even opened the door and looking out the back, and I was just so afraid and timid. And nevertheless, and just a week or two ago, I would have been feeling anxiety about this. Like, oh my gosh, Kurt, why can't you back up? Why can't you drive anymore? Nope, stable right on through. In my mind, I was like, okay, car, you need to wait. You know, everybody around is going to need to wait. Grandpa's backing up here. I'm not going to back up into a polite pole or a tree, which I almost did on Sunday. Thank goodness. Same thing. I was backing up at the shrine to go to the flea market, and I was doing the same thing, taking the super slow steps, and wasn't until I got stopped that I realized that I was about 6 inches from a tree that I hadn't seen. And if I had not been so dang slow, I would have certainly backed the car right into the tree. So that experience, like coming this close to the tree, in spite of the fact that I was being so careful, everybody in the parking lot, you're going to need to wait. I'm backing up, and I'm backing up with care. So that momentum that I had from Monday just plowed right on through. I met my incompetence in the car backing up, and I said, hold my beer. Incompetent guy is backing up slowly, and I'm not going to feel bad about it. So that was good. The other one was, we went to a place that drove to a place that I know how to get there. I know how to get there, and I got lost on the way, and it was obvious I was with Yumiko. It was obvious that I was lost, and just a week, and I get lost a lot now. In Japan, I get lost. I get lost driving places that I know how to get to. I can't remember how to get to anymore, and I get lost. And instead of feeling bad about it like I would have a week ago, again carrying that forward, I was like, okay, here it is again. And I started off the day, and I knew it was going to happen. I said, because I choreograph these things when we set out driving. I say, Kurt, we're going to drive from point A to point B. Okay, Kurt, if I want to, I can use the map app. And sometimes I do. If I don't, I won't use the map app, and I will rest with the fact that I'm likely to get lost, even if it's someplace I know how to go. If I'm going to be backing up, it's going to be incredibly slowly. If I'm going to be at intersections, I'm going to be very careful and slow in doing things. In general, I'm driving about 5 miles an hour under the speed limit everywhere I go. I'm, not so much so that I'm dangerous, but not so fast that I'm out of my limit. And the parenthetical note here says, well played. I was lost and well played. Because I knew that I was likely to become lost, and I had prepared myself ahead of time, and I had that momentum of the Monday, well played, of the really good day on Monday to kind of ease my mind, I simply turned to my wife and said, I'm lost again. And I kind of pulled to the side, and I said, I think, and I was enlisting her aid. Remember, this is hard for me to ask for help, but I listened to her help. I said, I think if I go up here and they make a left at the river, I think that'll take us, and then we can make another. We can get on the road there. And Yumiko, she chimed in with she's a great woman. And she said basically, she says, yes, you can make a left on. There's a big street called Minami Kansen, and there's this other secondary street which runs parallel to Minami Kansen, We call it lesser Minami Kansen. She says, I think that'll take you to lesser Minami Kansen, Kurt. And I thought, yes, you're right, it will. And then I'll be back on my feet. And then we had a little chat about why do we call it lesser Minami Kansen? Because it's got the same number of lanes, it's got just as many businesses. And then we laughed and remembered, because it dead ends after a while, it makes it lesser. It doesn't go all the way through to Shimizu. Irrelevant to the point. The point was, it was well played. I didn't get upset. I didn't flounder. I pulled to the side of the road. I told my wife, I'm lost again. Can you help me out? We had a fun time talking about it. We plotted the course out together, and we made a joke about it, and had an interesting conversation about the lesser Minami Kansen thing. So that was well played. So this is me, and remember, this is my journal, so I can talk about anything that I want and go anywhere I want. This is me confronting my new limit, hashtag limit. When I say hashtag and give a word, I'm referring to a principle or objective from my book. Hashtag limit, recognizing a true limit in my life, which is my competency has decreased and is fast decreasing. Recognizing that. Now, on just a little footnote right there. So some of you may be wondering, well, could it be like, early signs of dementia, early Alzheimer's? Possibly. I don't know. And if this continues and it gets more worrisome, then I will get checked out for that. It's possible. It doesn't. I haven't seen any instances of that in my family. My family seems to, although their heart gives out on them young, dementia doesn't seem to be a historical issue in my family. It doesn't mean it's not going to happen to me. It doesn't mean that that's not exactly what's happening to me now. I don't know, and I will if probably what I'll do is see what happens and have discussions with my wife. And if we'd agree together that I need to be checked out, we will. Yeah. So just end of footnote. So it just adding that it's not. I'm not ignoring the potential severity of what's happening to me. I'm not ignoring that. I'm just putting it aside for now, giving myself the benefit of the doubt that I'm still adjusting to 1, living in a new country, 2, being retired, 3, getting old. That was the end of the 3 notes from yesterday. Whoa, boy, Monday and Tuesday were great days. I would characterize the last 2 days as, aside from the excitement of coming to Japan and the big adventure that I cataloged in my series Retiring in Japan, which I got a comment this morning that I just responded to yesterday. Someone asking me, is the Retiring in Japan series done? And I think it is done. I think Yumiko and Yoko and I have completed that, mainly Yumiko and I have completed that series. So that was a lot of fun. That was a huge adventure, and I cataloged that in 2 seasons of Retiring in Japan. That's pretty much complete. Aside from that, which was a lot of fun, excuse me. Yesterday and the day before were the funnest 2 days that I've had yet. It was really good. Yeah. You can see the smile on my face. I'm going to do more of the same. Maybe once or twice a week. You heard me say that before, huh? Let's see if I can pull that off. I really do mean it now. I do mean it. Okay, let's go over the creed. How am I doing on time? Pretty good. My creed is the set of values that I live by. And I know this is backwards. For some reason, the YouTube app shows everything backwards. I tried flipping it in the settings app in the camera. It didn't help. No, anyway. Going Alone is my book. It's the book where I codify my values, called the Good Life Creed. These consist of 8 objectives and 35 principles that I've been using since late 2018 to live my life. I started making this series of videos, this daily Good Life meditation, to actively, it's like a workout, if you're like trying to keep your fitness, you do every day or every other day a nice workout. This is my daily workout to apply my values to my life, to eat my own dog food, so to speak. So now I'm going to do the part of this exercise where I'll turn to the book, not really because it's in my head, and I'll go over the code called the Good Life that I have outlined in this chapter called the Good Life, which you can find on page 246. First, I'll do 8 objectives and then 1 principle. The 8 objectives consist of the following. First of all, I told you I'd talk about death. I need to make sure that every day that I'm ready to die. This means that I need to have my affairs in good shape. My life's work should be complete. And the relationships with the people that form the inner circle of my life are sound. Or if I have an unsound relationship with a stranger, a neighbor, or something like that, then I'll try to resolve that too. But if you get this idea, right? I'm not worried about worried about the relationships that are beyond me. I'm worried about the relationships that are instrumental and key to my commitments, my responsibilities, my decided connections. So I have to ask myself, are these things, can I answer yes to all 3? A qualified yes to all 3, yes. There's one thing I mentioned 2 or 3 days back that I want to do with my affairs, but even if I die now, that's incidental. It can be figured out. So in the second question, so yeah, I'm ready to die. Doesn't mean I want to die. Doesn't mean I'll face it well. Doesn't mean I'll go down with a sober mind and face. Can't really know that until I actually get there, right? But I think, as much as preparing, I think I'm prepared. It's like preparing to, open the door on an airliner should the plane go down, right? You sit there, if you've been assigned, as I have, or asked to sit at an exit seat. I don't know that they do this anymore. Back in the day, when I was a globe traveler, I would fly a lot, and I would be asked sometimes, because I was a strapping middle-aged guy, to sit in the aisle next to the emergency door, and asked if I was prepared to, facilitate the opening of the door in an emergency. And I always said yes. I mean, who isn't going to do that? You get more leg room after all, right? And it's one thing to read the instructions. It's one thing to assess the door and to say, yeah, I could do this. I can pull the big handle. I can lift it out. It's another thing. Could I actually do it? Could I actually keep my mind and keep my sobriety of engagement in the moment? Don't know until you get there. It's likewise with this death thing. I think I'm ready to pull the handle and go out the door smoothly and make sure, well, hopefully no one else is following me out that particular door. But we won't know until I get there, right? Number 2, the second objective is to make good and effective use of my time. Do you see how I'm standing up right here? And in my room, there's no television in there. These are just examples of my definition of the good use of time. Now, if you watch my camera, I have a live stream camera going on. You don't see me standing out here very much, and I do sit down a lot. So it doesn't mean that I'm always standing up or I'm never watching a TV show because I have my phone. It just means that I try to orchestrate a life where I have ample opportunity to choose to be upright, engaged, to not be watching reruns, to be doing things that I'm pressing my mind forward, trying to expand rather than get by. I don't want to spend my life killing time, ever. Unless I'm recovering in some way. Yeah. I'm in a hospital. Yeah, I'll kill time there. 3, the third objective is to develop and maintain good and sound life principles. That's precisely what I'm doing now by reciting this Good Life Creed. I'm looking at my objectives in particular and asking myself, are they sound? And then when I'm done going over the 8 objectives, I'll read 1 principle and I'll ask myself, is that sound? I'm reminding myself of what is and asking myself if it's sound, good, and in alignment with what I perceive to be the best way that I can live my life. And why do I need to do that on a daily basis? Well, there's new information coming in every day. I'm expanding my data set, more experience, more maturity. I need to reassess things. So I constantly do that to fulfill objective number 3. To develop and maintain, it's the maintain part, good and sound life principles. Number 4 is to cultivate good emotional reactions so that I'm responding well when things are getting difficult. It's interesting how the aforementioned instance with my driving, the backing up situation and the getting lost, I don't need to have good emotional reactions for that one anymore, because these don't ambush me anymore. They're no longer being a bad driver or being unable, being incompetent in general, is no longer taking me by surprise. That's interesting. That's the first. This is the first time I've noticed that. First time I've made note of this. I 2 weeks ago, even 2 weeks ago, even last week, every day when I'm out doing stuff, I'm making mistakes and I'm messing things up and I'm doing things poorly. And it would piss me off a little bit every time it happened. It's not happening anymore. It's like living, it's become like living in Tahiti or Hawaii, a place where there's those periodic little rain, when I was in Hawaii, I remember seeing these rain clouds. They'd be out there, they'd be coming across the landscape, across the ocean, with a column of water coming down. And it would just, you'd be out there doing something, having a pina colada or walking on the beach, and suddenly just whoosh, just rain come down, and then it would go past, and you'd be soaked wet, and that would be that. First couple times it takes you by surprise. After a while, you'd think, oh, this is just Hawaii. That's what this has become like for me. My incompetency, my inability to function well is no longer surprising to me. It no longer takes me by surprise and pisses me off. It's just like getting soaked by a sudden rainstorm in Hawaii. I get this is really interesting when it's happening with Yoko, because Yoko's 53, so she's still on the other side. I mean, I really do think this is really a result of my age, because Yumiko's having something similar happen to her, and other people my age are reporting stuff similar as well. She's much younger, and I'm her older brother-in-law, and I should be able to be competent, and she's like the younger person sitting there in the seat of competence in her life, highly competent, and I would be embarrassed and frustrated when I would be doing all these things. It's not happening anymore. I'm like, okay, here it is. Here comes the rain. Shh, it'll pass in just a moment. Okay, everybody's patient. I'm going to pull to the side of the road and just let this go by and think about where I am. And I do that a lot when I'm driving. I just pull to the side of the road, and I find a safe spot, pull to the side of the road, and I just, I've done this more than once. I've given up the wheel. I've pulled to the side of the road on a long drive where I feel like I can't drive safely anymore. I'll find the next parking area, and I'll pull over, and I'll turn to the ladies, because I usually start off driving, and I'll say, guys, can one of you drive? I can't drive well anymore. I'm not safe anymore. And one of them will take over and drive. I don't worry about it. I used to feel embarrassing and sad about that, but not anymore. It's good. We're back to it. I was talking about good emotional reactions, objective number 4. Boy, coming to Japan has been good. If anything, just to help me to really get good at fostering good emotional reactions, or better split, the management of my emotional reactions, because I use #Temperance, the control of my emotions. It doesn't mean I don't have bad emotions. It just means that they start to rise up, and they don't get any further than about here. I don't blow up. I don't show emotions. You're not going to see me. It's really rare anymore to see me get like, dang it, I made a wrong turn, or oh, darn it, I almost hit a tree. I just don't do that stuff anymore. It's like it gets to about here. I use #Temperance to push it down. I use one thing slowly, and to slow down or even stop and recollect my senses. And then I carry on with a plan. #Reason. #Maturity. Okay, number 5, the fifth objective is to do good things throughout the day in accordance with my values, which is also becoming very easy to do, because I've been doing this for so long, this meditation for so long, that my values are on the tip of my tongue, on the tip of my fingers, on the tip of my mind with everything that I do. My incompetency is not impairing my values. In fact, interesting observation, if I do say so myself, now that my incompetency has caused me to slow everything down, it gives me more time to tune my responses to be in better alignment with my values. That's worth getting incompetent and old for. Number 6 is to do just one thing at a time and do that thing slowly, deliberately, and carefully, which I definitely do. And that's been another great boon of retirement, is being free to not rush. Number 7 is to maybe I'm on number 8 now. To keep my balance. Did I miss one? To be always ready to die. To make good and effective use of time. To develop and maintain good and sound life principles. To cultivate good emotional actions. To perform good actions. To recognize my true limits and true opportunities. That's the one I missed. To recognize my true limits and true opportunities so that I know what I can do, what I can reach, what I can't. Like I was saying earlier in this talk, knowing the scope of my possibilities at age 61, and then exercising to the very limit, like a range dog, out traipsing around the land, going into the very frontier of its territory, to not stay in the insular circle, and to, more importantly, to know where that limit is, to not worry about the things beyond the limit, and to attend to the things within my reach. This is also probably the most stoic of my objectives, because one of the things a stoic will do is to recognize what is within the scope of their control, and then to apply appropriate and measured responses accordingly, offering little to no response necessarily to the things that are incidental beyond their control. I'm not worried about a supernova going off in Alpha Centauri, but I am concerned about the happenings within my little property here on a day-to-day basis. I'm concerned about the impact that I have when I'm driving through the community, whether I would hurt somebody or damage our car. And I'm concerned about the things that I do and say in my videos, which might have influence on others. And number 8, back to 8, balance, last of my objectives. To keep my balance in both my body and my mind, which kind of comes as a secondary element of living a prescribed life. Let's open the book and go to the section on principles. Today, what did I talk about last time? Oh, I did script writing. Yet today I'm going to do the bullseye aim. This is principle number 30. So the bullseye aim suggests that we should expect to miss the mark. Life should be performing our objectives in life should be like playing a game of darts. When we're playing darts, even the best darts player don't expect a bullseye every time. If we get close to the mark, great. If not, then that happens. If we hit the mark, hooray. Likewise with life. So I'll read that, the bullseye aim. Reading from the Going Alone. You can read my book for free at goingalone.org. Our best ambition is to achieve our goals and objectives to the extent that we can feel our effort is complete. That is often a pretty high mark, even with a pessimist's aim. The fact is, we frequently fall short, well short, or at least short enough to cause us to bluster or regret that we even tried. For myself, I will be satisfied if I have made a good and honest effort. There really is otherwise no time to lose. The last thing I'm going to do now is talk about today. So, today's going to be a day of gardening. I haven't shown you or anybody really what the heck is going on in our backyard. This is the bamboo. This is our backyard. This is the bamboo forest behind my little yard here. You can see in there, look how dark it is there. It is deep dark in there. And then it has gone completely wild. I'm going to look at our property. This is our property down there. That is all green and going over these bamboo. This giant bamboo has come up right to the edge of the balcony here. This other one has come up right there. There's more out there. Bamboo you can see popping up everywhere over here. The whole yard has gone crazy. Now the garden on the other side of the forest over there is an absolute madhouse with life. And Yumiko and I haven't been doing anything about it. nevertheless, our garden is thriving. Our tomato plants, we hardly ever go out and water them. They just get the rain. The tomato plants are giant. They're making tons of potatoes, tomatoes, tons of tomatoes. The eggplants there's eggplants. There's the bell peppers are doing great, and there's weeds everywhere. And there seem to be no insect pests really bothering anything. They're just producing in the midst of the madness. It's like the friggin' Garden of Eden out there. I want to tame it. The heat has really had us, and the mosquitoes have been a problem. Mosquitoes are an issue. Having this bamboo forest right there is really that. I keep this Katori Senko mosquito. You can maybe see the little smoke coming up right there. Unless it went out. That's the Katori Senko that keeps the balcony safe from mosquitoes, and it works really well. I have a portable one as well. Yesterday, one of the things Yumiko and I did was we went out and we got some new outfits, some clothing to wear to keep us safe from the mosquitoes and to keep us, cool. The clothing that we had, the garden clothing that we had bought previously was good for early spring and autumn and whatever winter gardening you could do, but you couldn't do it in the summer. It was like wearing a wetsuit. So we got some new clothes. I'm going to give it a try. So that's my goal for today after I list my item in the store and do my radio exercise and walk the dogs and all that stuff is to suit up, head out there, and have a garden day. And with that, and I better probably wrap up, gotta go do radio exercise and sweet comments. Hi Heather, good morning. Hi Robert. Evelyn, hi Evelyn. Hi, all the wildlife chiming in is priceless. Isn't it nice? Robert says hi to Evelyn. Hi, Tim. Evelyn says hello to Robert, Heather, and Kurt. Sebpai. Hi, Sebpai. This is Sebpai. This is the first time I've seen your name, I think. I wish my work would be easily brought abroad, even if it was to work for a year or two. That would be nice. Robert says hi to Tim. Tim says hi to Robert. Evelyn says, I totally get it. I just got back from a 2-month trip by myself to Greece, Turkey, and Italy. I was planning it out as I went along. It was so freeing and really changed my outlook on my retirement. Wonderful. Stolen password. First time I've seen your name. Welcome. I hope you're having a wonderful day. It's just starting off. So far, it's been pretty good. Tim says, I think I enjoy the anticipation and in some respects, the fear of things in life, because if it goes well, it's a feeling of good result at the end of the day. Makes you feel good inside. It sure does. Tim goes on. Killing time. That's definitely a thing I kicked into touch once I finished work. How time went so slowly, clock watching, and now in retirement is going so fast, isn't it? Oh my gosh, Tim, what is going on? Yumiko and I were remarking about this yesterday. I don't know, and I'm probably boring people. I haven't said this for a while, but I've said it many times. I have no idea how Yumiko and I fit full-time careers and child rearing into our lives. Here in retirement, without a kid to raise or jobs to do, our days are just so full. Like I said, I can't believe that we don't spend time in the garden. It's just that there's no time. I made the excuse to say it's summer, just that there's no time. I don't know where it goes. Zero Cool. Hi there. Hi Kurt, hope you're doing well. I am. Thank you. Nice to see you. Robert says hello to Zero Cool and Stolen Password. Oakley Amare, good to see you. You criticize your competency often. Is it really your competency or adapting lifestyle priorities and adjusting to what's new? I don't know. I can't tell you for sure how much of it is one or the other. I imagine that there's both, but my gut feeling is it's competency. Also, the reason that that's the case is that my brain doesn't function like it used to. I've always liked to think of myself as a thinking person. I can't think the way that I used to. The thoughts don't come to me like they did before. They don't come easily. And I can't solve problems the way I used to. And these things don't really have anything to do with the fact that I'm in Japan. Like I can sit here in my little chair or stand here in my little desk and I can't puzzle out the world. I can't puzzle out my thoughts the way I used to because it's like the machinery is shutting down. So that feels more like something internal to me than something in the outside world related to Japan. Can't blame Japan for what I can't do sitting alone in my room. Robert says hi to Okayama Ray. Jones 227 says, how long did it take you to write Going Alone? It took me 3 years to write it and another 5 years to edit it. Robert, and the editing was a lot harder. The writing came easy. The writing was, in the book I often refer to something I call the muse. Remember in the competency I was just talking about, the ability to write where the words just flow out of my pen, that's how I wrote the whole book. The book was a strike of inspiration throughout. Every paragraph and sentence was like that. And I just don't have that anymore. That's gone utterly. I can sit here and try to summon the muse, and the muse is like, I checked out a long time ago. That's another one of the big feelings of change. And I'm really glad that I wrote all of my books when I did, because I'm really pleased with the books that I wrote. I'm glad that I got them out before the muse gave up the ghost, so to speak. Okayama Ray says hi to Robert. Okayama Ray says bamboo is crazy. Have several 6-foot thick ones, 6-inch thick ones that I need to take care of before they fall in my shed. It really is crazy. Bamboo is amazing. Robert says, remember, Kurt, the book you've written contains part of you. People connect with this. Yeah, I guess that would be true. Thanks for pointing that out, Robert. Tim says the time aspect is slightly scary. It is scary. I don't know what to make of it. Robert says, celebrate every victory, Kurt, which can include waking up each day. Well put. Thank you, Robert. Okayama Ray says, this may sound stupid, but for mental acuity, what helps my mother keep her wit are all the brain tease type games on her smartphone. Sounds like a good tip. All right, well, I've reached the end of the comments, and I have just enough time to get over and join the radio exercise gang for our morning exercise. And I've become one of the members now. It's really fun. At first it was kind of something that I wasn't so sure about. Now I'm really looking forward to it, and I like it because no one speaks English, well, there's 2 people that can speak English, but I get to talk with the ones that walk back, because it's held on the other end of the neighborhood. The ones that walk back with me don't, so we have nice conversations all the way home in Japanese. Thank you, Robert. Take care, everybody. Be safe, but not too safe. Bye-bye. And welcome back out, Evelyn. Glad to see you. Thanks, Tim.